Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to our advancement call, and our special guest expert is Alyssa Radocchia, also known as my daughter, also known as Ellie. Welcome, Ellie.
Thank you, Mom. um,
So today's topic is on how to love your body and how we can help our clients get the bodies that they want. And you're talking before about the weight management seems to be such a big issue, so this can be a really hot topic for people. So yeah, I'd just like to open the floor to you.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you. So hi everyone, welcome to Body Love. So I'm really happy to be here with you guys today. And so yeah, we're going to be talking about like weight loss is a big thing, but also just how to help your clients create harmony with their bodies the way that they are now. So for everyone who has not either met me yet or doesn't know me or hasn't seen all of my embarrassing pictures in my mom's textbooks and in her slides. My background is I am a holistic nutritionist. I'm a registered massage therapist, neurokinetic therapist, movement coach, and then for the past few years, I've been training as an aerial acrobat and a performer. So I've definitely have a lot of experience both personally and professionally in working with people who have some sort of issue with their bodies. So especially with my past, this has been a big thing, and it's something that I'm actually still working on, but I really feel like I've come a long way. So I'm really happy to be talking about this and sharing this with you guys. And so especially because you as image consultants, this could be huge because like you already take a holistic approach with your clients. So, and I really love that because you help people to use the right colors, use the right clothing to really celebrate their bodies and their personalities. So I think that's really cool. So I feel like this talk today is just going to really make your lives easier, and it's going to take your gifts and your powers of transformation to like the next level. And so what's really good too is that if you have clients working with you already, then that already means that they're on the right path because they've already reached out. They're working with someone who's helping them work through whatever they need in their professional career. So especially if it's their outer and their inner image. So what we want to do is really focus on what's going on internally, because I'm sure you guys have experienced working with someone where they can look absolutely fabulous, but there's still a little bit, like you can tell that there's some sort of insecurity that's kind of coming through. So if it's, excess weight, for example, then they may want to hide as opposed to like really feel like they feel confident in themselves and they feel like free and, and like sexy. So that can really hold them back from what you guys are trying to create. And because insecurities tend to be pretty loud in body language and mannerisms, but confidence tends to be a little bit more quiet, but also more you pick up on it. There's a different energy there. So that's what we want to focus on. And that's what we're going to focus on today at Body Love. And for the case of, for like clarity and organization, we're gonna break today's talk down into 3 components. So the first one is their psychological state, that's huge. The physiological or the physical state, and then the emotional and the spiritual. So when it comes to working with someone and their confidence and loving their body, all of these 3 factors make a huge difference, and there's so much interconnection there. And so there's a lot of overlap. So if you want to change one, the chances are you're going to affect or have to change something in the other two components. And so the first one, the psychological, is that I'm sure a lot of people know that in order to make a change, you must first change your mind. So like I find that this is huge when it comes to clients of mine that come to me for weight loss. The first thing I talk to them about is, have they experienced any sort of trauma or anything like that? Because a lot of the times when it comes to weight gain, that can be kind of a protective mechanism. So they're literally putting some sort of tissue, they're putting some padding between them and the rest of the world. So if they're working on losing weight, but there's that hasn't been resolved yet, then that can make things really difficult for them. So that's something that's just good to know when you're working with someone who, if that's one of their challenges or something that they're not as happy with. And a big part of that too, though, is just our perception. So whether or not they even are overweight, a lot of people have body dysmorphia. And I know I had this like pretty bad for most of my life. It also didn't help that a few years back, I was doing fitness competition and I hired this coach. So I was doing everything she was saying, and I lost so much weight, like really, really quickly. And everyone was saying how fabulous I looked. And I was like, okay, but I felt like death. Like there was nothing inside. My face was just like, ugh, like I had black circles. My hair was falling out. But, I was so happy because everyone kept saying how thin I was and how great I looked. But I had never felt so bad in my life. And so I think that's a big thing that I want to address, and why I love working with athletes so much too, because there's so much pressure for us to look a certain way, to like look perfect. But if it's not done in the sake of health, then it can be quite detrimental. And in my case, I ended up it took me 2 years to fully recover. And I'd actually put on 30 pounds because it took me into adrenal fatigue. So by pushing so hard to look a certain way, not feel a certain way, but look a certain way, I ended up feeling like absolute garbage for almost 2 years because my hormones were so out of whack. So we want to prevent that from happening for our clients. So so that's a big part of it too. And but for a lot of people who just have body dysmorphia, where they're in a healthy state, but for some reason they don't see how beautiful they are. And it's I feel like a big part of it is that majority of times a lot of people are focused on just the superficial aspect. And as important and as amazing as it is to like really look your best, it's also important that you feel your best as well. And so when it comes to, this body dysmorphia, I think we kind of lose connection with ourselves. We lose connection with how amazing it is that we have this body that can do such amazing things. And we focus so much on needing to look a certain way, then that's where we lose this connection with ourselves. We lose this connection with nature. And so that's a really big part of the psychological component of it. And sometimes as well, there could be an unmet life need. So maybe food or even anything else. Like sometimes people have trouble putting on weight as well. But in a lot of cases, they can be using something that is helping them deal with an unmet life need in the short term, which in the long term is causing more discomfort. And so this could be either using food for comfort, which was a big thing for me. Whenever I was like bored or anything like that, or there was something that was stressing me out, food, kind of changes your inner chemistry, makes you feel good. So if you're not feeling that way outside of that, you're just going to constantly using that to feel good instead of doing something active to change your situation. And so a lot of that has to do with sometimes we can even then just be stuck in a pattern. So say, for example, you then meet that unmet life need, but you've been so used to being in the same pattern for so long, and you can know that it's not the best for you, because you don't feel great afterwards. You know that something's bad for you and it's more of an addiction if you feel like you can't help it, but you do it, and then there's this sense of guilt or like lower vibration, low energy, like just afterwards. So in that case, sometimes that can be that we're stuck in this kind of behavioral pattern that's no longer helping us. It may be kind of helping us like during the process, but not afterwards. And that is actually one thing I really, really love doing with my clients, is explaining how you can do something about it. So say, for example, you meet someone that you can see that there's some sort of pattern that even they know, but they can't seem to get out of it. The first thing that you need to do is become aware of that issue. Okay, so like this is a compensation pattern. So once you identify what the compensation pattern is, then you know what needs to be released, because you need to release something, but then you also need to replace it with the better habit that's going to be more in tune with nature, more in tune with their goals. And that's going to take practice to keep that pattern going. So the first step is always awareness. This is what we need to let go of, and a daily practice of let this go, and then replace it with that new thought pattern or that new behavior, and then celebrate it. And then once that's done on a daily basis, it actually physically rewires your brain and it rewires your body so that becomes the new default setting. And so then it's a lot easier, and then things just flow. So even though you may not have like the body that you want, you're so connected, you're so in the flow, and you feel good and you feel so strong because of these little victories every day that boosts your confidence level. So it doesn't matter whether you're unhappy now, you're on the right path, and you see like little tiny progress every day, which is really great. So that reinforces that whole pattern. And a big part of that too, when it comes to the psychological component of body love, being really happy with the body that you have, is practicing gratitude. So what things do you really love about your appearance? Like, is it your eyes? Is it your hair? Is it anything really? And what about your personality? Like, did you make someone smile today, or did you make someone laugh, or you know what I mean? So just that practicing gratitude is a really good way to reinforce the new connections. And also like what your body can do. So not just what it looks like, but what it can do. So I find that's a really good thing that I like to do with clients as well is, okay, so instead of saying, I want to be thinner and, or I want to, like a lot of the times it's more energy, it's more confidence. They want to lose weight, but really it's good to focus on, well, how do you really want to feel? Like, what do you want to be able to do? What does this weight loss mean to you? So instead of choosing what you want to let go of, what do you want to gain from this? And so is it feeling free from all of these habits that feel like they're weighing you down? Is it feeling free and light and like, you know, sexy and fit and strong? And let's focus on that. And then from there, let's break it down into actionable steps. Like, let's break it down into goals. So, okay, so if you want to be strong, then how many push-ups do you want to be able to do? Or what dance do you want to learn? Or whatever it is, because that's also going to be good for your physical health. your physical, your emotional, and your mental health. Because when we're physically strong, we feel mentally strong as well. So it becomes so much easier to keep these healthy habits in place. And yeah, you just feel like a badass when you're really following your plan and you're taking those little tiny steps. And yeah, so we want to really focus on our body as being, it's just like a vehicle. That's all it is. You know, it's we're using this body to experience this life, to have an experience. So when you realize that you're this really beautiful being of light that's here to have an experience, and there is a strong connection between your mind and your body, absolutely, but to not let the way that your body currently looks bring you down or to have you hide from life, because I do see that, I've experienced that. And it is really sad, because I know for myself, the funny thing was being like overweight. So I was actually overweight for a while, and I didn't really feel healthy. And then a few years back, I reached my goal weight. Like, I didn't know my body could look like that, right? Where it was, all proportioned. I had a little bit of muscle showing, and I was like, ooh. And but then what was funny is that as soon as I reached it, there was a different insecurity that came out. And I'm like, wait, I thought I was done, okay? Like, I thought that everything was going to be easy and perfect from here on in. That didn't happen. So yeah, there was still, like, relationships weren't perfect, and then there was something wrong with my hair, or there was something wrong with this, or my nose was too big. And so there's, like, even if, like, say for example, even if it's height, like something that you can't even control, even if you wanted to be taller and suddenly you were taller, the chances are you'd most likely find something else to be insecure about. And unfortunately, that just seems to be how we work as a species. But that's okay, as long as we are aware of that, because once you're aware, it's easier to just be like, oh, well, that's silly, and then not give it more energy and attention than it really needs. And so the thing that I want to focus on too, though, is that, say for example, you have a client who is overweight, then the thing with that is it is a real health concern. So I see sometimes where, and this happened to me initially, where clients would come to me and they're like, I want to lose weight. And my initial response was to be like, no, you're fine. But the thing is, they're like, as much as I know that they are beautiful, like, it does not matter their shape or size. They're absolutely gorgeous. They were so sweet, so kind, just one of those, like, really amazing human beings. And to me, like, their size didn't, like, change that at all. But the reality is, if they are carrying excess weight, that is a health concern. So that can affect how vibrant they are and how vibrant they feel, because maybe they don't have a lot of energy, so they kind of have to, like, fake it sometimes. And you don't want that. You want to be as genuine as possible, right? You want to feel vibrant because you want to be vibrant. So you want to look, feel, and be all at once. And no fake it till you make it. Let's work on this. And yeah, so if their happiness and their health is being affected by weight, and then that is something that they could use some extra help on. So that is a good time for them to see a nutritionist, see a naturopath, someone, and it's good for them to interview the right people too, because a lot of people will bring their backgrounds or their own personal experience into it. Like, I see it a lot where nutritionists like to focus on, well, I'm keto and this worked for me, so therefore that's what I'm going to put you on and nothing else. Like, vegan diet is stupid, get off. And that's not really helpful. Like, you want to make sure that for yourselves and for your clients, maybe you can put some feelers out there and see who you feel comfortable referring your clients to, just so that it's in their best alignment, because how they look and feel is more than just what they're eating. and you want them to feel as comfortable as possible when they're working with someone. And yeah, so that's something to not really brush off too much if you do have a client that expresses that they would like to lose weight. And on that note too, I have spoken to my mom about this, where I feel like hopefully it's slowly changing, but we tend to put a little bit too much emphasis on weight as like a factor of health or something to congratulate. Like when I have clients that come to me and they say, "Oh, did you lose weight?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like, and they're surprised because they think that it's like the highest compliment, like, "Oh, you've lost weight." And I'm like, cool. Like, because that's not my goal. That's not what's important in life. I don't care. Like, I mean, I used to, so I kind of get it. But once you learn that that's just really superficial, then it doesn't become as important to you anymore. Like, I think the best compliment you can give someone, and if you're working with anybody, is compliment their energy, like something else about them, their smile, like just how bright they are, stuff like that. I think that's a lot more, that's where we should put a lot more of our attention, as to like, "Oh, look how skinny you are," because sometimes it has happened where I know someone that complimented someone on their weight loss, and it turned out that they were extremely sick. And in a lot of cases too, they can have, I know so many people who had eating disorders and or have had eating disorders. So that's the last thing you really want to focus on, because they've already put a lot of emphasis on their body. So we want to shift away from that as much as possible. And so yeah, when it comes to then working on, like, so say for example, in the case of having that extra body weight, yeah, the mental state is really important, but then we also then want to look at the physical aspect of it, because it's their physical self. And so it's a lot more than just calories in versus calories out, which is like, sometimes that's the main focus of everyone, is that, oh, if you're not losing weight, then you must be consuming too many calories. A lot of the times that can be true. So if this is the case, then meal tracking, like macro tracking or calorie tracking, is beneficial, because a lot of the times we can be eating a lot more than we think. And so even though we can think that we're eating really healthy, we're just eating too many calories. So that can be a big component. But if they've been doing that, and I know because I did that for years, where I was like, I like run 13K every day and all I eat is a salad. What the heck? Like, my body's not moving, like not changing. So that's where there's other components that come into place, like your adrenals. So if you have adrenal fatigue, and this is kind of easy to pick up on in clients, because if they feel tired, if their hair is thinning or really dry and brittle, or they even just say, "I'm tired," the chances are they may have some form of adrenal fatigue, in which case that really throws off their hormone balances. And with adrenal fatigue, it usually leads to, it's called like the spare tire around their stomach, which is so hard to budge, let me tell you. And so in that case, that's something to consider, because just having a trainer or someone yell at them and say, "Well, you just must be eating too much," that is not helpful to them. And that can make things feel that can make them feel worse, and then less motivated to actually do something about it. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is, and this is what actually made a huge difference for me when it came to the whole calories in versus calories out, and why my body wasn't moving, is because I was eating for the wrong body constitution. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ayurvedic medicine, but this is one of my favorite topics, because I was like, finally, like, it makes so much sense. And it ties in the physical, the emotional, and the physiological components. So I'm going to try to sum this up, but because this is my favorite, I tend to go like, blah, like here's everything. So when it comes to Ayurvedic medicine, it actually has similar ties to, I'm sure you guys know about like the endo, ecto, and the mesomorph. So this is kind of like, it ties into that, right? So in Ayurvedic medicine, there are 3 main constitutions. And the idea behind Ayurvedic medicine is that we are comprised of different energies, different elements. So you have the kapha, for example, which is the one that I'm most identified with. So kapha are the elements of earth and water. So of course, when you think of earth and water, that's usually cold, heavy. Kaphas, in terms of like their body or their physiology, they tend to be a little bit bigger boned. They can put on weight just by looking at chocolate and that's just how they naturally are. But they also have like really bright big eyes and like thick lustrous hair and like oily skin. So think of like lubricant, right? So fat is actually a lubricant. So kaphas, they tend to be really grounded because they are made of ground. And because of that, they're also like, so they're super grounded. Things tend to move a little bit slow, so they take their time. They're most likely late, but it's okay because everything is well. And so they tend to be really great when it comes to nurturing and love like taking care of people. And so they have all of these great qualities, but because of their constitution, with them being naturally heavy and slow, the way that they need to, their lifestyle and the way that they eat needs to help to balance that out. So because it's cold and wet and heavy, they need light, dry, and airy and hot. Like they really need like as much heat as possible. Because if kaphas are in too much kapha, like they go into excess, it usually leads to weight gain. Actually, depression is really big too. So anything where it really slows them down, like hypothyroidism, and so that's something to keep in mind, that they could be eating the same way as everyone else, like, but for some reason it's just not budging. And because we want to pay attention to the energetic component because of their constitution. So after kaphas, there is pitta, which is water and fire, but in this case, the water is more of like the oil that contains the fire. So these people are mesomorph. So they tend to have like maybe all medium kind of thing, like right in that nice little middle sweet spot where they're like just born with muscles. And so it's really easy for them to have like a really nice medium but muscular build. They tend to have actually a little bit more red in their hair, maybe freckles. It can be harder for them to put on weight because since they're fire, they have a really strong digestive fire. So this means that they can eat a lot of calories and then just burn it off, and they have all this energy. So they actually have to be careful not to have too much spice in their life, because they can have like, heartburn, anything associated with fire. And so yeah, they can get a little bit too much excess heat. And in that case, they can also be a little bit more angry, aggressive, jealous. Maybe they're a little bit more like type A personality, like just do it, like no BS, like just do it. And then the next one is vata. So vata is air and ether. And the vata is more of like, they tend to be the tall, like thin, maybe like their hair can be a little bit thinner, sometimes dry, especially if they're excess vata. So if they're too light. So vata tend to, it's a little bit harder for them to put on weight. They can eat meat, but for some reason they just can't put any weight on. And so for them, they need to balance out with more of like heat, as well. They need more grounding foods, and they need a schedule, because Vatas are just like air. They're just all over the place, where it's like, oh my God, I need to do a million things at once. And they want to eat salads and run, which is the worst thing for them because that's too light and they're going to float away. I'm just kidding. They're usually they can have stuff like anxiety, nervousness. And so this is stuff I feel like is really good for you guys to know too, because depending on their constitution, you know whether maybe they're going to be late or not, or show up, or well, not really. But I just found this really interesting because it can make a huge difference when someone is struggling to change their body, but it's not really working using conventional methods. Ayurvedic medicine is just amazing. So I would highly recommend taking a closer look into it, especially because the principle of Ayurvedic medicine is focusing on living in harmony with the universe and with Mother Nature. And I think that that's so beautiful. So it can be so easy to just be in the flow and just kind of not only feel okay with how you are now, but just to make major changes, is as long as you're in the flow with nature, right? Because in nature, you don't need to eat. You don't need to stuff your face in the evening. You don't need to really binge eat at night because you're preparing to go to sleep. That's your time to rest, not time to eat. And it's sometimes because we're out of touch with nature and with ourselves, that these kind of habits that can impede on how we feel and how we look come into our lives. And so this would absolutely connect then with the third topic of the emotional and spiritual well-being. And because with pretty much what I had just stated with losing our connection, where we forget that we are nature. We are as much, if you walk through a forest and you see how beautiful the trees are, you are just like that tree. You were born from Mother Earth. You were born of this world. You're here, you have a purpose, and you're gorgeous, just the way that you are. You don't really walk through a forest and say, oh, you know what? That one's a little bit pudgier right there. Or oh, that branch, did you see that branch? We don't do that. We just appreciate it. We breathe it in, and it's so beautiful. And we forget that we are those trees, right? We come from the same source. It's like the sun, and we're each a ray, and the one ray doesn't look and go oh, she is burning way too bright. That's not cool. So we're all from the same source. And that made a big difference in my life as well too, when I would be so inspired by these different people who maybe they looked a certain way, or their energy, or it was something. A lot of the times it has been wow, they just seem so naturally beautiful, and or maybe they were thin or something like that. And then I would think, but I am her. I am them. I have every bit the capability to be that way and represent that as much as they do. And then once you realize that, you get out of your own way, I think, you kind of stop telling yourself the same stories as to why you can't look like them. Oh, it's my genetics. I don't know. My mom had thighs, and not my mom, obviously. But so you can let that go and stop telling those stories, because if it was really that important to you to look or feel a certain way, and to me, I realized that it's not just about the look, it's that they seem so comfortable and confident in their own skin, and I'm oh, what's that like? That seems nice. So so I think that is what was really attractive. And I think that's what I want everyone to realize, especially my clients, is that they're already so gorgeous. If they're just following their dreams, if they're just nice people, that energy makes way more of a difference than what size their jeans are. Like, I don't care, you know? And so I think it's really interesting how we judge ourselves so harshly, but we're not talking that way about other people. And if you are, or if you know people who are, it might be time to like maybe change a little bit, like maybe talk to someone, because we're here for much more than that, right? Like, there's so much potential. There's so many cool things that we can be doing as opposed to like just what we look like. Because really, and by look like, I mean like our shape, because I'm sure you all know that when you have clients and where you're like helping them to really look their best, what's really coming through is that shift in energy, like that confidence, where they're really, that image is, it's like an energy that they're emitting as well, that's helping them progress and really be successful in life. And I'm sure that that's such a great feeling and so nice to see. So, and it's all interconnected. So that's the main point that I want to make, is that you know, it's great that they look their best and they feel their best. So it's amazing if they also are, like they really are, as healthy and vibrant as they look and feel. Because in some cases, when they take off those clothes that are really accentuating all of these great qualities about themselves, if there's still something internally that's not happy with the way that they look, like without those clothes, for example, then they're like almost there, but there's still a little bit that could be worked on to help them just get like fully into that new person, that new, or not that new, but the upgraded, fully transformed person. And of course it does take a bit of time, but these are all the layers that really like mix nicely to get them there. And yeah, so right now, like when it comes to everything that we talked about today, my hope is that there was some sort of beneficial information that you take with you, so it can help you to discern like the right course of action when you're working with a client that maybe has some sort of issue with their body or with their health or anything like that, that you feel more comfortable and confident in yourselves to help them make the next right decision. Because like, say for example, so is their health at risk? Well, then they should seek guidance from like a professional, like a nutritionist or a naturopath. Is it with maybe the way that they're moving or their posture? Because like, this isn't really like that attractive. Well, I mean, you can kind of see my collarbone, so that kind of looks good. But you know, like if they're like this and their posture is like that, then that can affect their confidence as well. And in that case, it's good to see like a movement coach, chiropractor, like massage therapist, but not kind of just anybody, because what I've learned through my own injuries and my own time as being like a massage therapist is that there are specific individuals, like I really, really highly value Neurokinetic therapy or NKT practitioners, because it's, you know, evaluating the compensation patterns and helping them to take charge of their own health and give them the corrective exercises for them to do, so they know how to help themselves. And then same thing with like massage therapists as well. Like I'm trained in NKT as well as immaculate dissection, which gives you like the best kind of program for any issue in the body. It's just like so clear cut of like, okay, this is what is stopping your body from achieving this posture. Because sometimes it can just be like, oh, well, you know, just put your shoulder blades together, and it's like, okay, like that's that's not proper posture, that's like flying. So yeah, so that's the other thing. Or if it's not the psychological or the physical, then it could be the emotional side. And so it's really, really nice that they have you guys, because you're already going to be one of the support pillars for them. But if they need some extra support there, then it's good to speak to like a therapist. I know my mom does energy shifting, and energy medicine is such a great tool as well. And like NLP practitioners, like neuro-linguistic programming. There's actually a university that I'm currently enrolled in called the Personal Development University, which is amazing. So I would highly recommend that. And so that pretty much covers like the three like major components when it comes to people really loving their body. And I know some days it can be harder than others, but that's okay. Like that's part of the whole ebb and flow of life. But at least with these practices, it can help them be more consistent and more regularly feel comfortable in their skin, which is really amazing. And so I think it's really, really amazing that you guys are helping them take that transformation to the next level, and you're here today. So I think that's great, and I'm really grateful for everyone here and everyone listening. I'm here to answer any questions that they have. PDTR, yeah, I know a few practitioners that do that as well. So it's very, very similar to the NKT, the Neurokinetic therapy. So that's awesome. Really, when it comes to working with someone, I love to get like as much information as possible, because there can be so many different things that are causing IBS. So IBS tends to deal a little bit more with the nervous system. Stress management is going to be the biggest thing when it comes to IBS, and I actually dealt with that for a really long time. I didn't realize for most of my life that I wasn't supposed to be bloated and uncomfortable all the time. So what I found really, really seriously helpful is diaphragmatic breathing is a really big thing, because in some cases, with the way that we breathe, it can actually be impeding your circulation, like your innervation to your digestive tract. So if it's that actual physical restriction, then you can change your diet all you want, and you can meditate, and you can do all these stress relieving methods. But if it's a physical component where your diaphragm is just not moving properly and allowing that kind of neural connection, then it can kind of prevent you. So diaphragmatic breathing is where you're actually, like, we also call it baby breathing. And this is why I do a breathing assessment on almost all of my clients, because if I were to ask you to take a deep breath in, most likely, I hope not, but most likely this is what I would see. And that's bad. Don't do it. So we're taught to do that. We're taught to suck it in. You have to suck it in, and then that leaves us no choice but to breathe like this. And so when we're doing that, your diaphragm can actually get stuck. I'm just gonna move my camera a little bit. Your diaphragm can get stuck here, when really we want it to, your diaphragm sits here, like right underneath your ribs here, and it pushes down. And this is, so when you breathe in, this should actually be the part that moves. Like this should expand on the inhale. Because what's happening is that your diaphragm moves down. It creates negative space in your chest cavity, which lets your lungs fill passively. But if that's not happening and you're breathing like this, then everything that connects to your ribs, everything is up here is being used to raise your rib cage to create space for that movement. That puts a lot of strain on our neck and shoulders. It also affects the innervation from our vertebrae into the rest of our body. So that's actually a big thing that I think can be causing IBS. So incorporating that breathing is going to be really important. I would definitely recommend getting a breathing assessment done though, just to make sure that there's no sticking happening, like there's nothing that's stopping you from being able to do that fully. So I would say, like, if I were to give any tips just going forward, it would be practice the abdominal breathing for sure, or the diaphragmatic breathing or abdominal breathing or baby breath, because they have their gut out and they don't really care about how slender they look. And so the next thing would be definitely stress management is huge. So I found meditation absolutely just a life changer, because it helps you to stay connected to yourself no matter what the outside circumstances are, because like life is going to throw stuff at you. That's like a guarantee, right? So the best thing that we can do is just help ourselves be more prepared for that, and to stay as calm and cool and grounded and connected during those times, so that our nervous system isn't like all out of whack, which then like connects right to our gut. You can also use, so like digestive enzymes can be really helpful as well, but that's more of just like a symptom relief, because when you're under a bit more stress, what happens is that it can actually affect your hydrochloric acid, so your stomach acid becomes weaker when you're under stress, because it kind of depletes your zinc as well, and that plays a huge role in your stomach acid. So what you want to do is, so that's why the digestive enzymes can help, because if your body's just having a hard time digesting the food, then those can be a great like kind of symptom relief in the meantime. And then apart from that, if it's something that you feel called to do, I would actually see a naturopath or a nutritionist, because they really take a look at the holistic approach. So because you or your client, whoever has the condition, they are unique and they deserve to have the time and the attention and the energy to focus on them. And that way it takes out a lot of the guesswork, a lot of the time and the money on like trying all of these supplements that guarantee that they're going to solve this for you, but they're not really working on the cause. So that would be my best thing to say after that is to see someone who can take a look at what you're eating, what's causing you stress, and then specific lifestyle and diet changes that will work with you and your schedule and your lifestyle that you will actually put into place, instead of just like a generic, like, do these things and then you do them, but then maybe they don't work.
Thank you very much, Alyssa. That was amazing information. Alyssa does do virtual sessions too, or she can't do virtual massages, but
but okay, here you go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, how's that go?